Hello everyone, I am Dr. Sapkal here. Welcome back for watching the video. The title for discussion today is Iron Metabolism and Diagnosis of Anemia in Pregnancy. First, let's try to understand how the absorption of the iron occurs. The food contains iron in the ferric form. It is converted into ferrous iron with the help of HCl in the stomach or ascorbic acid and cysteine in the food contained. Only 10% of the consumed iron is absorbed. Heme iron is absorbed readily. That is an advantage of heme iron. If the dietary iron of 10 to 20 milligram contains elemental iron, then only 1 to 2 milligram will be absorbed, like it is 10% absorption. Thus, iron demand in pregnancy is 4 to 6 milligram. Can be achieved only if 40 to 60 milligram of elemental iron is consumed. Hence, iron supplementation is required in pregnancy. This iron absorption in the ferrous form is also according to the body needs. It is controlled by three methods. One is mucosal block, where the mucosal cells of the gut, they get saturated with the ferrous iron and there is no further absorption of iron from the gut. There are two regulatory systems to control the iron absorption from the body. One is iron stores regulatory system and the other is erythroid regulatory system. This erythroid regulatory system is between the bone marrow and the intestine. Absorption from the gut, iron absorption from the gut is with the help of cilia of the mucosal wall of the jejunum. There are divalent metal transporters on the cilia of this mucosal wall of the jejunum or the duodenum. These divalent metal transporters 1. Absorb the ferrous iron from the food and along with the transmembrane receptors, the ferrous iron gets entry into the cell. So ferrous iron gets the entry and then next in the cell this ferrous iron gets oxidized to ferric iron with the help of an enzyme for oxidase 1. It is there in the cells, mucosal cells. The ferric iron next combines with the protein apoferritin and forms the ferritin. Thus, the ferritin is a temporary storage form of iron. Mucosal cells HCs get shed off within 2 or 3 days. This apoferritin or ferritin which has combined with the apoferritin gets lost after 2 or 3 days through the feces. This is known as ferritin curtain. Iron loss per day in a menstruating female is approximately 2 mg per day. It may be through the menstrual blood, through the sweat, hair loss and through the fecal matter. Lifespan of RBC is 120 days and iron released from this RBC is recirculated back into the blood for erythropoiesis. Then how the iron gets released in the plasma from the mucosal cells. Whenever this iron is released in the plasma, it is always in the ferrous form. Ceruloplasmin and for oxidase 2, they oxidize this ferrous iron into ferric state. Then there are transferrin receptors in the plasma. They bind with this ferric iron and they go on circulating in the plasma. Transferrin receptors get attached with the ferric iron along with the transmembrane receptor and thus they form the complex and this complex gets transported to the RE cells where iron is released and it is stored. So along with this with the help of these transmembrane receptors, the complex is formed and then it gets transported and gets stored in the RE cells. 30% of the ferritin is stored in the liver, spleen, bone marrow, and 70% of ferritin is stored in the RBCs. RBC break after 120 days and iron is reutilized. 1 gram of RBC releases 3.4 milligram of iron. But in cases like thalassemia, sickle cell disease, where there is hemolysis, in these cases, ferritin supplies excess. Iron is stored in the form of hemosiderin. This hemosiderin is stored in the liver, spleen. This hemosiderin storage is 35% of body weight, and this ferritin storage is 25% of body weight. Now let us learn what are the characteristic features of this transferrin which is in the plasma. If there is less iron, then serum transferrin receptors TFR synthesis increase. The total iron binding capacity means 250 mg of plasma transferrin binds with 400 mg of ferric iron. One transferrin binds with 2 atoms of ferric iron. Total iron binding capacity increases in iron deficiency anemia. It will be more than 400 microgram per dl, and TIBC decreases in cases of infections, chronic infections like urinary tract infection, tuberculosis, respiratory tract infections, Kala Azar, malaria. Transferrin saturation is less than 15% is a diagnostic feature of iron deficiency anemia. Serum transferrin level, they reflect the circulating iron, and serum ferritin level, they reflect the iron stores. As they reflect the serum ferritin levels, as they reflect the iron stores, it is the earliest abnormal test in iron deficiency anemia because anemia develops in stages. First, the iron stores are depleted, then serum transferrin and serum iron level they fall, and lastly the hemoglobin fall is there. So, earliest abnormal test in iron deficiency anemia is the fall in serum ferritin level less than 30 microgram. Bone marrow aspiration is also done in certain cases, very rarely indicated. As such, it should be avoided because these levels also gives the idea about the iron status. Absence of stable iron in the bone marrow indicates depleted iron stores. Cases like thalassemia, sickle cell anemia, whenever there is low serum ferritin, then only iron supplementation is required. Otherwise, avoid them. Ideally, iron chelating agents are required in these cases of hemolytic anemia. Now, how do you diagnose this anemia? Clinically and by investigations. Different types of anemia, they are because of 3 reasons. One is less RBC production, second is RBC loss, and RBC destruction. Less RBC production is due to deficiency of iron, minerals, vitamins, proteins, amino acids. Anemia may also be due to hypoplastic bone marrow or endocrinal disorders like hypothyroidism. The conditions like endocrinal disorders, liver disease, chronic infections, in these cases there is less erythropoietin and less erythropoiesis, thus anemia results. In cases of chronic infections and UTI, there is excess of interleukin secretion. That is also a reason for anemia. Cases where there is blood loss should be explored clinically with a history in detail, like menorrhagia, piles, hookworm infestation, and cases where there is hemolysis, excess of hemolysis, like sickle cell thalassemia, they need to be investigated by different tests. So these cases may be G6PD deficiency, prosthetic heart wall, malignancy, vesicular mold, choriocarcinoma cases. Detailed history is very important to diagnose and the specific type of anemia. Past history about the fever with chills, malaria, urine tract infection, because there is um, lysis of RBC with the toxins. Then menstrual history in detail about the heavy menstrual bleed as such or due to property use must be documented. Bleeding piles, hookworm infestation, chronic cases, they need to be investigated and explored with the history itself. Stool examination is required to diagnose hookworm infestations. Then obstetric history, folic acid deficiency anemia. The prevalence is hardly 3 to 5%, but it is seen in multipara with short interconception pregnancies with short interconception periods and twin pregnancy. Folic acid deficiency may manifest in the form of bad obstetric history also with abortions, prematurity, IUG or IUD stillbirths. Or they may be patient with anovulation where they get investigated for infertility and then they conceive and then they report like that. So history of obstetric is very important. History is very important in folic acid and B12 deficiency anemia cases. Personal history about the pica, indigestion, consumption of alcohol, consumption of antacid is important to explore the iron deficiency anemia cause. Bariatric surgery history uh, is taken to exclude folic acid deficiency and B12 deficiency. They are at risk of developing B12 deficiency especially. Use of anti-epileptic drugs like for convulsions, like phenytoin, sulfasalazine use. They inhibit folate synthesis and they can cause folic acid deficiency anemia or megaloblastic anemia. Family history is very important in thalassemia cases and sickle cell disease. Clinical symptoms, the patient is at risk of developing. She may complain of giddiness, easy fatigability, weakness, loss of appetite. In the current pregnancy, she may give history of hyperemesis in early trimester, chronic bleeding through piles or bleeding PV in cases of threatened abortion or antepartum patients should be obtained. B12 and folic acid deficiency cases can have peripheral neuropathy, especially tingling numbness of the extremities. And extreme cases, sometimes there is subacute combined degeneration of the spinal cord also. Very rare feature. Severe cases are likely to have dyspnea, palpitation, edema as a feature of congestive cardiac failure, usually at 32 weeks of pregnancy. Clinical signs are there are certain signs related with the iron deficiency anemia, certain signs are related with the folic acid deficiency and B12 deficiency anemia. And hypoproteinemia, anemia, so these clinical signs must be explored in all. Signs of iron deficiency anemia may be in the form of angular stomatitis, bald, pale tongue due to atrophy of papillae of the tongue, brittle nails and brittle hair, spoon-shaped nails or koilonychia may be there, hyperpigmentation of hair, and Plummer-Vinson syndrome may be a feature of iron deficiency anemia. Tongue may be magenta color in riboflavin deficiency or B2 deficiency. Pigmentation of the skin, hemorrhagic patches under the skin and conjunctiva, and butterfly rash and cascal necklace rash are the features of B12 and folic acid deficiency, and these rashes are features of niacin deficiency. Vitamin A deficiency signs may be follicular hyperkeratosis and bitter spot. Iron deficiency anemia cases will have muddy conjunctiva or pearly white sclera, and jaundice cases will have jaundice will be there or lemon tinge sclera may be there in hemolytic anemia cases. Ulcers over the legs are seen in chronic sickle cell anemia cases or hereditary spherocytosis cases. Agranulocytosis and aplastic anemia cases, they are very rare conditions, but they are very serious conditions here. In these cases, ulceration, recurrent ulceration of the mouth with bleeding gums and bleeding spots under the skin are the typical features. Signs symptoms of severe anemia is very much dangerous to the life of the lady, and it is very serious matter. It manifests especially at after 28 weeks, maximum at 32 weeks of pregnancy, where there is CCF. So systolic murmur the lady will have with cardiomegaly, red JV pain, venous hump in the neck. Left ventricular failure with basal capitations and pulmonary congestion may be there in severe anemia cases. Hepatosplenomegaly is a feature of hemolytic anemia, malaria, leukemia, lymphoma. Ascites is due to congestive cardiac failure, or it is common with the hypoproteinemia, anemia, hypoproteinemia, and hypovitaminosis. Tenderness over the lower part of the sternum is due to expansion of the bone marrow is seen in cases of leukemia and even osteomalacia cases. Patient may have clinical features of folic acid deficiency anemia, especially they will report in the first trimester abortions because of defective germplasm. And late pregnancy, they can have a UGR. Early manifestation of preeclampsia, HELLP syndrome, accidental hemorrhage is the risk, and it is very dangerous in cases of folic acid deficiency anemia. Puerperal venous thrombosis, pulmonary embolism and renal insufficiency is a common feature with sickle cell anemia cases. In the pregnancy, the anemia cases are at risk of developing preterm labor, and there is chance of chorioamnionitis and PROM. During labor, there is risk of postpartum hemorrhage. With the normal blood loss also, they go into the shock. There may be features of sudden congestive cardiac failure in third stage of the labor due to sudden venous return from the placental bed. The puerperal cases, there is risk of sepsis and poor lactation, and thromboembolism is very dangerous in these cases due to generalized edema and generalized anasarca. Sickle cell anemia cases may report with some emergency fatal issues like hematological aplastic crisis is the risk. Second one is vaso-occlusive crisis. It is also known as painful crisis. And the third manifestation is in the form of RDS, respiratory distress syndrome, or acute chest syndrome. Lastly, acute sequestration crisis means sudden and fall of hemoglobin, and rapid fall in the hemoglobin percentage is there. Ischemic microvascular injury can result into kidney impairment, and autosplenectomies and osteomyelitis are the rare features in cases of sickle cell disease. To diagnose the type of anemia, hematological indices are required and peripheral smear is a must. Iron deficiency anemia is the commonest anemia diagnosed and should be suspected and diagnosed first and should be treated. Look for other associated nutritional deficiency like protein deficiency and folic acid and B12 deficiency also, and should be taken care of. In case when the patient does not respond, then look for other rare causes of anemia like renal disease like chronic glomerulonephritis, then malaria infections and filarial infections from tropical when the patient is from tropical area. Then liver diseases and thalassemia cases should be explored by specific tests and should be investigated by liver function test. Hypothyroidism, T3, T4, TSH levels should be estimated. Then sickle cell disease and thalassemia should be explored by sickle solubility test and hemoglobin electrophoresis. Okay, in sickle solubility test, blood 2 ml of blood plus 2 ml of sodium diethionate solution causes clouding, indicates sickling of the cells. The screening test for thalassemia is the Nestrov test. It is diagnosed by hemoglobin A2 and F2 electrophoresis. F2 levels are increased in these cases. Hemoglobin electrophoresis, HbS and HbF. If more proportion of HbF, then prognosis is better. Red cell distribution width is normal, and zinc protoporphyrin levels are normal in cases of thalassemia, while they are raised in cases of iron deficiency anemia. This is a peripheral smear in iron deficiency anemia, which indicates microcytic hypochromic cells. The pencil cells, teardrop cells are seen here. These are the pencil cells, and teardrop cells are here. These are the teardrop cells. Anisocytosis and poikilocytosis is a feature of dimorphic anemia. Anisocytosis means cells are small size and deformed cells are there. In poikilocytosis, abnormal RBC shape is there in different forms. Schistocytes indicates fragmented RBCs. They are not seen in iron deficiency anemia. It is a feature of folic acid deficiency anemia and sickle cell anemia, not seen in iron deficiency anemia. What are the hematological indices in iron deficiency anemia? Let us summarize. Iron deficiency anemia, hemoglobin less than 10 gram percent, advocated by Foxy, and hematocrit fall less than 30. RDW increases in iron deficiency anemia, while it is normal in cases of thalassemia. MCV cell morphology, it indicates less than 75 and MCH less than 25 picogram per cell. PCV or hematocrit fall less than 30% indicates acute blood loss and anemia. MCHC less than 30%. MCHC is the most sensitive blood index of iron deficiency anemia. We have learned earliest abnormal test in iron deficiency anemia is serum ferritin level less than 30 microgram per liter. One of the most diagnostic feature of iron deficiency anemia is the transferrin saturation. It is the saturation, not the level, less than 15%. Okay. Then serum transferrin less than 300 milligram per dl reflects the circulating iron. With low serum iron less than 60 microgram per dl, iron binding capacity increases. TIBC increases in iron deficiency anemia. TIBC decreases in infections. What about serum ferritin levels? They are raised in chronic infection. They fall in iron deficiency anemia. Fall below 12 microgram per dl, full dose of iron is required, and fall up to the just up to the cutoff value less than 30 microgram, up to 30 microgram, half dose of iron is required. Patients with low serum ferritin level of thalassemia and sickle cell disease cases, in these cases, iron supplementation is required. If serum ferritin level is normal, it is not given. Patients of pancytopenia with normal ferritin level, investigate them for thalassemia. In thalassemia, RDW and zinc protoporphyrin levels are normal. Now, what are the hematological indices in folic acid deficiency anemia? This slide is also very important. Okay, peripheral smear will indicate macrocytic megaloblastic anemia with both anisocytosis and poikilocytosis will be there. A beautiful smear. Okay, and buffy coat appearance, typical Howell-Jolly bodies are seen. Leukocytes are multilobulated and they are large size. MCV will be more because they are macrocytes. In iron deficiency anemia, they are microcyte cells are small size. So MCV mean corpuscular volume will be less than 75 microgram per day. Folic acid deficiency anemia, the serum folate levels less than 3 microgram per liter. It is the earliest indicator of folic acid, and gold standard test for folic acid test is RBC folate level less than 80 microgram per liter. Earliest indicator of B12 deficiency is serum B12 level less than 200 nanogram per liter. What are the different peripheral smear reports in cases of iron deficiency and different types of anemia? In iron deficiency anemia, there is always microcytic hypochromic anemia, means the RBCs are very pale and they are small size. Okay. In folic acid and B12 deficiency, there will be disparity in the peripheral smear CBC, but MCV will be less. And in megaloblastic anemia, MCV will be more. In mixed dimorphic anemia, macrocytosis will appear with hypochromia. Okay. Especially in folic acid deficiency anemia, they are macrocytes and they are megaloblasts. In liver disease and hypothyroidism, they are macrocytes, but they are not megaloblasts. Nucleated RBCs are not there. Okay. Renal and hepatic disease, because of impaired bone marrow function, they are normocytic hypochromic anemia. And in thalassemia, liver disorders, pancytopenia, where there is pancytopenia, target cells are seen on the peripheral smear. Malaria and filaria cases, with fresh fever episode, the smear is taken and look for the parasites. This is a peripheral smear showing dimorphic features of dimorphic anemia. There is anisocytosis and poikilocytosis. Anisocytosis means small size deformed cells are there, like this. Small size cells are there. These cells are small size. Poikilocytes means shape is abnormal. Different pencil cells, teardrop cells, elliptical cells, oval cells, they are all different types. So it is a dimorphic anemia. This slide is very important from MCQ point of view. Peripheral smear in folic acid deficiency anemia. These are the features of folic acid deficiency anemia. To diagnose folic acid deficiency anemia, at least 2 features on Buffy code preparation should be there. Okay. Earliest manifestation of folic acid deficiency anemia is multilobulated leukocytes. So more than 5 lobes in the nucleus and more than 4% of leukocytes is a feature of folic acid deficiency anemia, earliest feature. And their polymorphs also may be of large size. What about the RBCs? So 2 features are in relation with WBC and there are 3 features in relation with the RBC. We know megaloblastic anemia, folic acid deficiency anemia is a megaloblastic anemia. In these cases, there will be megaloblasts, which are nucleated RBCs, and they are macrocytes, means normal size is 7 microgram. Here it will be more than 12 micromillimeters. RBCs will show Howell-Jolly bodies. They are residual nuclear inclusion bodies like this. Inclusion bodies are known as Howell-Jolly bodies in the RBCs. As regards the hemolytic anemia, schistocytes are seen. They are fragmented RBCs. So these fragmented RBCs like this small fragmented RBCs is a feature of schistocyte. It is seen in cases of hemolytic anemia like thalassemia, microangiopathic hemoglobinopathy or injury due to burns. In these cases, schistocytes are seen on peripheral smear. Target cells are seen almost in all cases of severe anemia with iron deficiency, liver disease, thalassemia, sickle cell disease, target cells. They look like this. There is a rim of non-stained cytoplasm in the RBC. These are the target cells. So this is the target cell on the peripheral smear. This is the target cell. There is a rim of non-stained cytoplasm. Then typical sickle cells in sickle cell anemia cases are seen on peripheral smear. This is how peripheral smear and rest of the red cell indices conclude with the what is the type of anemia we are dealing with in a case. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video.